Alright, I wanted to make a video detailing the Revelation 12 sign, which I believe was an astronomical alignment that appeared last year. And I'm going to use astronomy software to show this to you, but before I do, let's read the scripture. It's Revelation chapter 12, verse 1 and 2. And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was crying out in birth pains and the agony of giving birth. So once again, this is a sign that appeared in heaven, an astronomical sign. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull up some astronomy software. It's called Stellarium. And this is a free download, by the way. Any of you can do it. Just Google Stellarium and the download link will come up. So here we are. We can look at the skies from anywhere in the world. I'm going to pull up Jerusalem. And again, this alignment took place last year in 2017 on September 23rd. Alright, so I'm going to turn on some features here to let us see the constellations. Let's turn off the ground and the atmosphere so we can really see it. And the scripture once again says that a woman was clothed in the sun. And of the 12 constellations along the elliptical that the sun passes through every year, the only one of those that's a woman is this one right here. This is Virgo. So a woman clothed in the sun. So here we see the sun is in the constellation Virgo with the moon under her feet. Let me jump ahead here to later in that evening so we can see the moon under her feet. And then on her head a crown of 12 stars. And here's how we get the 12 stars. Notice the constellation Leo above the head of Virgo. And Leo is comprised of 9 main stars. You can count them here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stars. And then we have these 3 planets that are lined up right here. And planets back then, when John was writing, were called wandering stars. So we have the 9 stars of Leo plus the 3 wandering stars. The crown of 12 stars above her head. So it's a woman clothed in the sun with the moon under her feet. And above her head, a crown of 12 stars. Then it goes on to say that she was in the agony of the pains of giving birth. I want you to notice here Jupiter. The planet Jupiter, which is often called the king planet, is right between the legs of Virgo, underneath the womb section. I don't know if you can see the outline of the womb area of Virgo, the blue lines there. But Jupiter, at this point on September 23rd, had actually just passed through the womb area of Virgo, and Jupiter had done a retrograde motion inside the womb area for a period of 41 weeks. That's a human gestation period. In fact, let me go ahead and show that to you. Let's go back several months here. Let's go back to November of 2016, the year before, so we can watch what Jupiter does. I'm going to start right here, so really pay attention to Jupiter. As I go ahead, I'm just going to go day by day to start. And right here, right around November 24th, is when Jupiter passes into the womb area of Virgo. And then let's fast forward in time here so we can watch what Jupiter does. You can see Jupiter, this is around January, February, March of 2017. It does a retrograde loop right about here. It didn't exit, notice. It's staying inside the womb area of Virgo. And right about here, Jupiter's going to do another retrograde loop, still in the womb area of Virgo. And right about here, let's go back a couple days, right about here is when Jupiter passed through the womb area of Virgo after having done a retrograde loop in there and stayed inside for about 41 weeks, a human gestation period. I think that that's pretty spectacular. That's really, really cool that it happened that way for a human gestation period. And then let's go forward ahead one more time to September 23rd so we can look at this, look at the full alignment here. So here it is, a woman clothed in the sun with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars, and she was in the agony of giving birth. Guys, that's it right there. There could not be a more perfect alignment. In fact, there was a guy, Scotty Clark, who really discovered this Revelation 12 sign using this software, actually. This was back in 2011 when he made the discovery. And he wanted to go back and see, is there any other possible time in history when this alignment could have also taken place? And he went back every year when the sun was in Virgo. That happens every year, by the way. Every year the sun passes through Virgo and the moon is underneath her feet. That's not a rare occurrence. As far as Jupiter, my understanding is that Jupiter passes through Virgo every 11 years or so, but I don't think there's any other time when Jupiter did a retrograde loop inside the womb area of Virgo to stay there for 41 weeks. Normally Jupiter just passes straight through. But anyway, once again, what Scotty Clark did for 6,000 years into the past, he took a screenshot every year that the sun was in Virgo. He did that every year for 6,000 years in the past, and I think he went ahead 1,000 years into the future and did the same thing. And there was no other time when there was a more perfect alignment than what we see here as it relates to Revelation chapter 12. So that's pretty cool. And so what is the significance of this? Obviously, this appeared in the book of Revelation chapter 12. It happened last year, but let's go back to that scripture. I want to look ahead here at verse 5. Verse 3 and 4 I'm going to skip right now for the purpose of this video. Verse 3 and 4 is another sign. It's the dragon sign, which refers to Satan. Now, I've read some interesting theories as far as what that could have been, but we're just going to skip that for now and look at verse 5. It says, "She gave birth to a male child, one who is to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, but her child was caught up to God and to his throne." So the woman, and let's talk about the woman real quick. The woman, most biblical scholars will agree, represents Israel. Anytime you see in Scripture when there's a woman in travail or a woman giving birth, usually that refers to Israel. And so Israel is a corporate entity, right? This woman is a corporate entity, Israel. So it would make sense that her child is also a corporate entity. And I'm going to make the case, actually, that this male child is actually the church. It says that this male child will rule all the nations with a rod and iron. Well, Jesus is described in Scripture, of course, as ruling with a rod of iron. But one other entity in Scripture is also shown ruling with a rod of iron, and that's the church. If we look at Revelation chapter 2, these are the 7 letters that Jesus wrote to the 7 churches. In verse 26 and 27, it says, "The one who conquers and who keeps my works until the end, to him I will give authority over the nations, and he will rule them with a rod of iron." So there we have it. So this male child, this corporate entity, I believe, is the church who will rule the nations with a rod of iron. And then it goes on and says, "But her child was caught up to God and to his throne." If you do a word study on this word caught up, the original Greek word that was written is harpazo there, for caught up. And harpazo is a word used for the rapture. It's also used here in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 16 and 17. In 17 it says, "Then we who are alive, who are left, will be caught up." Again, that's the Greek word harpazo, caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. So that's the word for the rapture, the same word used here in Revelation chapter 12, verse 5. So, in summary, what we have here is this sign. And when this sign appears in the sky, this woman clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, the crown of 12 stars giving birth, once that sign appears, soon after we have the male child, the church, who is raptured, caught up to God into his throne. So I believe, because this sign happened in 2017, that we are very, very close to our rapture, the rapture of the church. Now, as far as how soon it's going to happen, we don't know. Again, this is just a sign. And a sign is never the event itself. Obviously, the rapture didn't happen last September the 23rd. But when you see, for instance, a road sign, like Atlanta, 25 miles, that's pointing to the event that's going to happen. So perhaps for us, our exit ramp will be coming up very soon. And I believe it will. And I think this Revelation 12 sign is a good indication for that. So one other thing I wanted to show you guys in relation to this. If you take nothing else away from this, by the way, I want you to take away this image and really remember this image that occurred on September the 23rd, 2017, the Revelation 12 sign. But I want to show you one other thing that I think really confirms this Revelation 12 sign. And it's this comet that appeared in the sky in 2017. It was only visible in 2017 when it was discovered. I'm going to pull this comet up here in Stellarium. All right, let's go back a couple years here. So there's this comet. It's called the Conception Comet. That's the nickname given to it, and you'll see why it's called that in a minute. If I zoom in, you can kind of see it. I'd have to zoom in quite a bit. So for our purposes, we're just going to have to rely on these crosshairs here, these red crosshairs, to represent the location of the comet. But if we were to go back in time, let's look at this comet going backwards in time and watch what this comet does. So I'm going to go pretty quick here, and you can see it's just doing this like loop-de-loop motion. If I went back hundreds and thousands of years, it would continue doing this pretty unspectacular loop-de-loop motion. Nothing really significant about that until around the time of the Revelation 12 sign. So let's go there. Going back to 2000, let me start actually in 2013, just so we can see what happens beforehand leading up to it. So here's the comet again. If we were to keep going forward in time, we see it's continuing to do this, loop-de-loop motion. Let's fast forward now. Until right about, not here, but here's the last loop, and then it shoots in a straight line. It stops the loop-de-loop and shoots in a straight line, and then goes back into loop-de-loop motion. So what I want to do here, let me stop it right here. I want to take a closer look at what it was doing when it shot in a straight line there. When we go back to 2015, try not to go too quickly here. Let's look again. So here's the comet. You go maybe a little faster. It's shooting between the loins of Leo, and then it shoots straight here through Virgo. Notice it's going through Virgo right now. And watch what happens. Right about here, it's going between the legs of Virgo, I'm sorry. And notice then, at almost the exact moment as this Conception comet is passing through the legs of Virgo, notice what's happening. Jupiter is going into the womb section and beginning its 41 weeks inside the womb area of Virgo. How amazing, how cool is that? So just to quickly summarize, we've got this Conception comet that for all time past is just doing this meaningless loop-de-loop motion, and then at just the right moment it shoots between the loins of Leo. It stops the loop-de-loop retrograde motion, and then at the exact right moment as it's passing through the legs of Virgo, that's when the womb of Virgo becomes impregnated with the male child Jupiter. And then the Conception comet continues out and then continues doing this loop-de-loop motion for all eternity going forward. How amazing is that? So guys, once again, just further confirmation of the September 23rd, 2017 sign that points to the nearness of the rapture. So in closing, I would just say, make sure you're ready. The rapture of the church is coming soon, and you want to know that you're going up in the rapture and not being left behind for the most terrible time that earth will ever experience. And the way to know that you're ready is to make sure you have a relationship with Jesus Christ. It's as simple as Romans 10:9, which says if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. So guys, I love you. Thanks for watching this video. Have a great day and God bless.